All right, up next we have Virgo rising and sun. For you, this Aries eclipse, solar eclipse on the 8th, is happening in your 8th house. And I think that generally eclipses, especially this one, can be a little bit chaotic and bring up a lot of fated circumstances. In this case, I think this eclipse is particularly shadowy for you guys because it's in the 8th house and because this eclipse is exactly conjunct Chiron in Aries, which is an asteroid associated with our wounding from all the way from childhood. It's very much associated with what makes us feel insecure, lacking confidence, uncertain of ourselves, uncertain of how to move forward, and feeling like we're lacking strength or independence and self-assuredness. And so I feel like a lot of those things can come up around this eclipse so that they can be put to rest. And this is especially going to talk about how this affects your relationships, because ultimately, the ruler of this eclipse, Mars, is in the 7th house of your relationships, and it's conjunct Saturn. So there could be some ending to relationships or changes to relationships, or you're thinking differently about them in terms of what suits you long term, what makes the most sense for you. I really feel like there is definitely quite a lot ending and shifting and shaking up in your life with the Tower and the Death card. You might even sometimes resist those endings, but ultimately they are here to serve you. This chaotic, fated, tumultuous energy is here to shake up your life and have you face some of the things that maybe would just go unnoticed in our busy day-to-day lives. And it's addressing those things head on. That's what an Aries eclipse is about. So ultimately, I think the relationships that we're in are the catalyst for this growth, for these self-realizations, for staring at our fears or insecurities or uncertainties in the face. And I think it's going to be important with these cards also next to the Five of Pentacles to be aware of when there's a lack mentality, when there's a scarcity mentality, or a victim mentality, or a fear that is driving our behaviors, or focusing on the negative, focusing on what makes you depressed, that kind of thing. I feel like sometimes we can go through big changes, and that level of upheaval can take our whole mental health and like spin it on its axis and have us focus on what's not working and how everything is bad and turning everything bad in our life. And so this eclipse is really about being able to go through those changes and seeing the darkness, seeing the shadows, seeing where things are maybe not as good as you would like them to be, where there are certain struggles that you're having to go through. Maybe you have certain debts that you have to pay off that's stressing you out, which is a very 8th house experience. Maybe you have certain, again, insecurities being revealed to you or showing you where your needs have not been met. And looking at that stuff and being able to draw out the positive from it, I think is going to be the most transformative part of this eclipse. I pulled this human cell, and it's really about getting down to the core of who we are, what we value, what we believe. And that's super important because sometimes when things start to fall out of our life, when the world starts to shift for us, we can feel like, again, catastrophizing, and we can start to take that we can start to take the one area of our life that's chaotic and apply it universally to the whole area and come up with beliefs that we are a certain way or that things are, negative in a certain way. But when we can get down to the core of who we are and what's actually going on in our lives using the reality of the situation, we can also just look at it and see this is what I actually believe. Like when I'm not looking just at this difficult thing or this thing ending or this thing shifting, if I'm looking at the totality of my life, like what is it at the core of that totality that makes me me, or what is it that I really believe about myself or really believe about my life? And this kind of zoomed out perspective can really help with that, as well as zoomed into the absolute core of something, the essence of something, rather than getting kind of caught by fragments that are dramatic and really grabbing more of our attention. So I hope that makes sense with what I'm trying to say there. I also pulled the Queen card, and I feel like this is our chance to be in an embodied Queen energy. And it could be the negative side of the Queen, which would be to maybe have more melodramatic energy, or be, again, kind of focusing on these big emotions and attaching meaning to those things, even though they're fluid and they're not permanent in our life. They're not the core of what's always there. They're just grabbing our attention, but we could attach meaning to those and make those a bigger deal. Or we could be in our grace, in our essence, in our truth, and what is courage, resolve, stillness, feeling confident in who we are. Even when the storm is brewing around us, we're not, again, attaching our identity or meaning to those things. We're allowing that to brew, but our core is remaining the same. We know what we believe, we know who we are, and we're going to navigate this circumstance with grace. And that is, I think, what this eclipse is trying to teach us. And to be willing to redefine who we are as well, with Mercury being retrograde, your planetary ruler, being retrograde conjunct this eclipse. Let's redefine even who we think that we are. And a lot of that comes from pulling things away and seeing what's left. And again, how you choose to navigate difficult situations can help you solidify your self-concept and who you want to be. But also, you can decide, like, now that things are falling away or things are ending or things are shifting, you can decide, well, who do I want to be in my next chapter? Who is this new version of myself? The core will always be there, but how do I want to shift things around that are more external to reflect the person that I'm becoming? And I think that that's a big journey of what an 8th house and eclipse is about. It's this process of death and rebirth, transforming old energy into something new, into something empowering, to see what you're really made of, to see your inner resolve, and to reach for something more. And it's only through allowing the old things to die off or the excess to fall away that we're able to really see the ways in which we want to transform, or the things that really matter, the things that we really desire. That's the only way that we free up energy or space in our life to be able to dedicate to something new. And so I think that many of us are going to be going through that process. And I think a lot of this will involve relationships, because Mars is conjunct Saturn and Pisces in the 7th house. So I think certain relationships could shift, could fall away, or there could be something with contracts and your commitment to something like a company, or a contract to buy a house, or a contract to just collaborate with somebody in some way. There's a sense of like, I am merging with somebody, or committing to somebody, or I'm ending that. And so there's some element here around the collaboration, the relationship that, again, is either cementing or ending. And it's really based off of what makes sense for us in the long term with the Saturn energy. Pisces, where Mars is really wanting us to be unattached, detached from a very specific outcome. Saturn wants us to plan, act cautiously, understand what makes sense given our current reality, but also, being in Pisces, recognize where we don't have control, where things are happening that are destined to happen, where we are listening to our intuition, and we're allowing things to surrender to an extent. So surrender and a plan at the same time. And I really feel like that's going to help you become more empowered in your own essence. And I feel like whatever you're building next is something really exciting with this Ace of Cups, this 8 of Pentacles, the Sun card. I think for many of you guys, it's going to be some kind of career goal, or developing a certain skill, or, starting something new that ultimately is going to help you build up your confidence. Your self-concept is going to emotionally fulfill you, is going to bring in money for you, is going to help you master certain aspects of things that you're interested in, that, again, I think is going to help you grow as a person, grow in your life. And I really, really love that. And for some of you, it might even involve esoteric things because Venus is in Aries in the eighth house, conjunct Neptune. So there might be some kind of obscure esoteric subjects that you're like really diving into and becoming more spiritually advanced, or learning how to do astrology or read tarot, or become a medium or something of that nature. This energy, though, is important not to kind of like get caught up in maybe a victim mindset or become overly idealistic about things. Venus and Neptune can be super subjective, impulsive, not really aware of reality. So it's important to like use this energy for what it's useful for, which is spiritual endeavors, self-healing, therapy, connections with friends and loved ones that support us, but to not lose ourselves in things like drugs or something else that is, or anything else that is ungrounded in reality, essentially. So that's basically what I'm seeing for you. I think there's a lot navigating that you're navigating at this time. There is this definitely some shadow elements that an eighth house eclipse is going to bring up, again, especially with Chiron. Wounding can come up, sensitivity, vulnerability, but how do we navigate that with grace and put our energy and focus into the things that are going well, into the light, into things that are going to build us up in the future, and use healing energy and use your proper tools to address and process the shadows without getting stuck in them, without getting too weighed down by them or focus on the lack within that. So that's going to be super important. Let me pull one more card for you. I got desire. Okay, yeah. So I think that that's also really a big part of what this eclipse is about. Being in Aries is connecting to our true, authentic desires. And if there's been things that have inhibited your desires, then that is going to become obvious with Chiron being here. If you've ever tried to lie to yourself about what you really want, that's going to be obvious around this eclipse. Or if you've kind of downplayed it or tried to say that, oh, I don't need that, or oh, that's fine, I can just make do, or I can settle, I can let that go. I think that that's gonna become really real, raw, and honest with this eclipse. Being in such an intimate and vulnerable eighth house, it's like you are truly sharing with yourself and with others what it is that you want, and not being able to settle at all, like not being able to ignore your truth, and that desire. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Virgo. If you want to share with me around how this eclipse is impacting you, I would really love to hear your comments down below. They help me connect with you guys and they help my practice, definitely. If you want a reading, you can check me out in the description box down below, Cosmic Clarity Astrology. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful eclipse. Bye.